Hello, fairy finders and fairy seekers. Welcome to FaerieQuest and another episode of Real Fairies in Real Photos. This episode is the final part 6, of the High Bridge Disc Golf Course Trail in Eldora, Iowa. I wasn't sure there would be a part 6, but when I started going through the remaining photos, I realized that this location really wanted to go out with a bang. This video shares 20 fairies, from flying lizards to possible witch people to stairs on a tree. In fact, the variety of fairy species you will see in this video is pretty impressive. I'm so excited to share them with you. As always, before we get started, take out your magic wand and zap the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and consider supporting this channel using the link in the description box below. I so appreciate every action you take. Please take a moment to check out the other link as well. You might find something of interest there too. Okay, let's go meet the last fairies from the High Bridge Disc Golf Course Trail. Here we have two fairies, an infant and an adult. We can see the head, face, and ear of the infant clearly on the lower part of the log. The adult is leaning over the log looking down at the baby. The face of the adult is in profile. We can see hair, one eye that is either closed or looks closed due to looking down, a nose, mouth, and pointed chin. We can also see this adult's back and a foot at the base of the tree. It really is a sweet picture, and you can tell from the look on the adult fairy's face that the baby is much loved. Another fairy head with an unseen body. This trail has had a good number of these heads. Here we see a hat with a lighter band around its edge and a very interesting hairstyle, smooth and rounded without a hair out of place. The eyes are shielded by hair and either sticks or long grass, but we can still see where they are. The eyes are quite close together. The nose and mouth are easy to see, and I've shown the pointed chin. This fairy cannot be missed in this photo. Once in a while, we catch a glimpse of fairy beings that resemble dinosaurs, dragons, and/or lizards. Here we have a flying lizard, ? We can easily see the head with eye and mouth, the neck, the belly, and one wing. I cannot make out where the back portion of the body might be in the photo, but what has been pointed out is very clear. If I were to guess, I would call this a flying lizard for sure. We don't have anything like this in Iowa, by the way, at least not ones we can see with the naked eye. The fairy in this photo reminds me of the classical look of a witch, dressed in black with a conical hat. The hat, however, appears to be a bit short, so this fairy may just be a specific species that wears this kind of hat. We can see the face in profile, though details are slim due to the distance this fairy was from my camera. We can also see long legs, feet, a butt that shows this fairy is sitting, and a hand, though the arm is difficult to see. She or he is also dressed in black. Here we see a titch more than the profile of this fairy. He has somewhat of a narrow pointed head with a bit of dark hair hanging down over his forehead. We can see both eyes, his nose, his mouth, and a tiny spot of his chin. He appears to have a mustache. The rest of him is either behind the leaves or this is another head checking out the surrounding area before bringing their entire body in from somewhere else. I might have passed this fairy by if I had not seen the hand with the fingers. We can't see the arm of this hand because of the piece of grass that also hides this fairy's nose and mouth. We can see the eyes, the puffed out cheeks, the ear, and part of the upper body. There is a leg there too, but I can't tell which is leg and which is stem, so I didn't label the leg. This fairy kind of reminds me of a mouse. The flesh color of this fairy's face is what allowed me to see him in this photo. We don't see much of him, but what we do see is quite unique. He does not blend well with the surrounding leaves, so this must not be one of his special talents or magics. We can see one thick eyebrow, one eye, and a super cool hairstyle. The color of his hair is quite awesome too. I am saying he, but this could also be a she. There is a nose there too, a button nose, that I have almost covered with the red arrows. I definitely have some questions about this fairy. We can see the top of the head with no hair, one pointed ear, and both eyes. The nose and mouth are unclear. We can also see one whole arm from shoulder to hand, though the hand is difficult to see if you don't look closely. The other arm and hand seem to be bent at the elbow with the hand under the head. I'm not sure if this fairy is tucked inside this curved leaf somehow, or if this curved leaf is the rest of this fairy's body. So cool! This is one of those fairies that may require a bit of eye practice on your part, going back and forth from the above photo to the photo on the left. This is almost one of the unseen fairies, or nearly invisible fairies. He has a pointed head, and we can see one eye really well. His nose and his mouth can be seen too. Under some grass blades, we can also see a butt and or leg with a foot that resembles a bird's foot in this photo. He's a cute one. This fairy could easily be mistaken for an apparition, as she is not fully solid. It is hard to tell how big she is, as she is further away in the photo and we have nothing for a size comparison. She has her back to us, but her head is turned to the right so we can see her face in profile. We see her hair, one eye, her nose, and her mouth. Her hair is nearly to her waist. She is wearing a dark shirt, and it looks like she has her hand on her hip on the side we can see. Her lower body is more faded, and her feet are hidden in the sunlight. She is short in stature, so might be of the fairy species of dwarf. If so, it is rare to see a female. Sometimes leaves are not just leaves. Check out this fairy. Look at the labeled parts, then look at her in the larger photo to the left. She appears to be relaxing back, blending in as well as she can. We can see her eyes. These fairies often form themselves from natural items such as leaves and sticks, and I believe she did just that. If you believe this to be a stretch, the next picture may just change your mind. We appear to have a sleeping fairy here. The head is obvious with its two pointed ears, long rounded nose, and a closed eye. Look closely. As you can see, I have added an arrow to the photo on the left to show you the fairy from the previous frame of this video. These two seem to be hanging out together. The one above may not be sleeping, just putting on a good show for me as I go to take my photo. When they catch your eye, as these two did for me, they are usually fairies. I apologize for the blur of this little fairy in the enlarged photo above. He seemed clear enough in the original photo to the left, but he is smaller than he first appears. He is wearing a black hat with an emblem on the front. We can see one big eye and a little pointed nose. He looks like he is balancing to walk across the stick he is standing on. His right arm is up next to his head with the hand hanging onto the larger stick next to him. We can see him from head to toe. I have to admit that the fairies on this trail are quite ingenious in their abilities to blend in with their surroundings. Look at her. You can see she is separate from the leaf she is sitting in, but the color is perfect. We can see her hair, arms, and legs. She has her head resting on one hand. We can see both of her eyes, though I only labeled one so I didn't mess up your view. She has a nose similar to a dog protruding from her face. She is super cute. I almost let this one slide by as just a dried leaf under some green leaves, but then I noticed the pointed ear. Last I knew, dead leaves did not have ears, eyes, or a nose, mouth, or chin. This fairy seems to be a bit freaked out by something. At least that is how I am interpreting his facial expression. I don't believe it is me, because he is not looking at me at all. Whatever it is, it made him attempt to become invisible, yet still able to watch for the danger. Here is a fairy in a pointed brown hat, peeking out at us from behind a dead leaf. We can see both of his eyes and part of his nose, but the rest of his nose and his mouth are hidden behind the dried leaf in front of him. If you look at his eyes, you can see he is not looking at me, but looking off toward his left at something else. I guess when you are the size of this fairy, you need to be on guard all the time. When I first saw the area that I put inside the red rectangle to the left, I thought it was a face that I was looking at. Once I cropped it and enlarged it by 100, as I do before I save it, I realized there was much more to what I was seeing. The nose of the face is a window, and the mouth is part of a door. Leading to and from the door are steps, as I have labeled above. I wonder how far down the steps actually go on the tree and where they lead to. This is the first time in a long time that I have photographed some place that a fairy might live. This is a very tall fairy, as far as fairies go, I think. Look at how long his leg is. We can only see one leg, his upper body, and part of his head. Since he is dressed in all black, I think he may also be wearing a black eye mask. I can't even speculate on this one. It is definitely odd and just not clear enough to see what is really going on. This fairy is very small if you compare her to the leaves around her. Despite that, she is amazingly clear in some ways. We can see her hair and her face in profile, though her face is definitely not clear. She is wearing a long dress with the sleeves of the dress being black. She is also carrying something. Her full shape is easier to see in the photo to the left, but the cropped and enlarged photo above isn't bad either. This little one stood out like a sore thumb, mainly due to the coloring of her hair in comparison to the gray ground around her. Her eyes also captured my attention. If you look closely under the eyes, you will see that her face gently protrudes outward and looks to have two nostrils like a dragon might have. Since we really can't see much more of her, it is very hard to say what species of fairy she might be. I do feel that she is a baby though.